All right, thank you for joining us this evening. It is 6 o'clock, so I'm going to officially call this meeting to order. If we could all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, have the board members, and we do have Carla joining us remotely on Zoom. Have all board members had a chance to look at the agenda? All right. Is there a motion?
I'll move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to adopt the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the agenda has passed. Now we'll go to our superintendent, who is also remote this evening. Wyeth, do you have a report for us?
Davidson, other board directors, as well as our staff and our community members. I'm really excited here to be talking about attendance. Attendance is in our strategic plan. I know it wasn't probably on so many people's radar, but it's something that's actually, we've been pushing out data on our attendance overall at each of our schools and specific down to the student level. And so our administrators, along with their teacher leaders, have been looking at specifically like, where are the students at? What's going on? How can we welcome them? And there's school improvement plans specifically around how to address some of the needs that individual students have, wraparound. They've been noticing, at least in my conversations with some of the administrators, is just noticing like, all right, we have some in particular students who are having a real challenge getting to school. And every time the principal does know the challenge, they know the story, strength, and need of their students. So they've been coming up with some of the strategies to not only address those who are more frequently absent, but also about engaging students, even when they've only missed a day or two, coming back to school, making up their work, welcoming them back, not really trying to set any kind of negative tone with them. We want to make sure that they understand that it's a warm environment that they're coming back to, that we really do care that they belong in all of our classrooms. So been going down in especially at the high school level, thinking a little bit more deeply about some strategies and some particular systems work and procedure stuff at our high school level about how to address attendance. So I'm really excited about that. I just knowing that across the 8 schools, attendance is really important, and that we've been really thinking strategically about getting our students there. So we got some upswings and some data, a little bit of bumps and roads, especially as you kind of think about getting towards the end of October. Some patterns have set in, and so just time for us to do a little bit more of the legwork, some of the more challenges that we have to face, just ensuring that our students get to school safely, and that ultimately, again, they feel like they are part of the classrooms in which they belong to. I also, I am at a Academies conference here in Nashville, Tennessee. And up front, I just want to say thank you, Mason Health, for teaming with us. It's really important for them to know how much it means to us, having their staff here, thinking about how the academies can further shift coming off of the pandemic. You know, these academies are so important to particularly our students. When we went to 2 high schools today, in particular, learning a little bit about how they nuance or switch about the differences between just 2 high schools, even within one school district here. I thought that there was things that we could pick up and address for the Shelton School District. In particular, I thought it was ironic, one of their top challenges is engagement. It has also been one of our top challenges around engagement, not just in the classroom, but just ultimately, again, back to that sense of belonging at the school. So when high schoolers come in, we did a lot of work around orientation. So one of the things that the schools have been doing that I think we really need to address is around freshman orientation all the way through the year. So they would have a specific class that would help them not only address things about how to navigate school, but then also starting to look at, all right, what's your high school and beyond plan? What are some of the careers and opportunities that we can have across our academies? So we'll be looking at that. And my last thing, well, I have two more things. One is buses. So we have pretty much filled our permanent bus driver positions. There's some few folks out, but we're looking for subs. So we have a mailer being planned to be put out into our community. So if anybody knows anybody interested in being a substitute bus driver, please go ahead and call our human resource department or our main line. We'd be happy to take your call and think about ways to help be part of our busing team. So we're looking to work with you if you're at all interested, and we also provide paid training. Lastly, it is time to honor our school leaders. We have amazing principals. I'm very proud of all of our principals here in the Shelton School District. They work extremely hard. You know, these folks, for the most part, have been coming off of the pandemic, really trying to make sure that we previously were holding up all of our health and safety guidelines, but then now, you know, really is the hard transition back to academics. We have a lot of learning loss. I know it's been well publicized, at least lately in the media, about how much learning loss there was for students across America. Shelton resides right there with it, and so we're just looking to really thank our principals for highlighting and keeping high expectations for our students, making sure they have a sense of belonging, and ultimately that they're college and career ready. So thank you for them and all their hard work that they perform. So with that, I'll hand it back over to you, Board President Davidson.
All right, thank you very much for bringing us that report all the way from Tennessee. We look forward to hearing more about that trip when you get back. I am curious, you said there is Mason Health staff there as well? Okay.
There are three or four Mason Health staff members here.
Oh, great.
It's been great to have them along as partners, thought partners about this work, since we're trying to bridge the divide from what we do to, again, back to right there in college and career readiness.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. All right. Next, excuse me, next up is community comments, and this evening we don't have anybody who's signed up for community comments. I'll check with Bob. Looks like we don't have anybody calling in either. So we will go past community comments tonight since there are not anyone signed up. So we will move on to reports and recognitions. First up, we've got our student reports. And Angela, I think you're going to be it tonight.
Okay, so students are, we just saw the constructions are starting for the portables, and students are super excited for that. And we also just got our order in for sweatshirts and I believe hoodies too. And students are particularly excited about that because we haven't had our own type of merch. And our counselor has made in her page links for all FAFSA nights that are happening in Choice, Cedar, and the high school, I believe. And the Evergreen trip that all of the high schools went to, Cedar had the chance to take all freshmen, sophomores, juniors, and seniors, and which 45% of all Cedar practically went to, which was a very interesting experience. Our video production and creative writing is making a movie, which is also very different. And we decided to start our Spirit Week on Halloween. So our students are like really hyped up for this week and next week, as we have so many events. We also have a school-wide board game that our leadership decided to pull through, which is going to be on Thursday. And that's about it.
No, thank you, Angela. We always appreciate the report on Cedar. Sounds like you guys have a lot of fun things going on, and I think there's a couple of schools that might have some Spirit Week activities starting on Halloween as well. So that's fun to keep that going. And we don't have our two other students here tonight. Unless they join us late, we can come back to them with their report. So now we'll go on to 5.02, which is recognition of the district's principals with Mary Ann Marshall.
Is this on? Okay. Just wanted to take the opportunity that this month was Principals Month and wanted to just share with you that we have had a really great start to the school year, and that is because of the work that our principals did along with their staff to get the school year ready with the transitions for students, inviting them into the schools before school start. They're nearing into their evaluation cycles right now, and they're just busy implementing our new reading program in our K-6, and our secondary are doing really well with their freshmen, and we just want to recognize their hard work and their leadership this month in regards to Principal Month for the month of October.
Yes, thank you. I think all of us on the board have seen how great the orientations were, and it's been nice to just get different reports on each one of the schools. We look forward to the next school improvement plan that we get to hear tonight. That's always nice. Do either of you have any comments or on the recognition of our principals this month? Just good job, right? And we're already 2 months into the school year, so yeah, kind of crazy.
All right.
Thank you,
Thank
Mary
you.
Ann. And then I guess you get to stay up there because the next one is 5.03, which is the Oakland Bay Junior High Schools Improvement Plan. And that's with Mary Ann and Principal Teresa. Principal Mayor.
All right. So good evening, President Davidson and school board members. We are here from OBJ, Team OBJ, to present our SIP to you. We have two goals this year. One is literacy and one is on school culture. So could we bring up the slideshow or? Okay. So while we get that up, I'm Teresa Mayer, the principal. This is Audrey Perry, the assistant principal. And April Yantis is one of our ELA veteran teachers. And this is Drew Bigelow. He is the lead of our MTSS program at the school.
So this is our ELA goal for 7th grade. It's at 36% of 7th graders at Oakland Bay Junior High will demonstrate a level 3 or higher. If you equate that to a grade, it's like a low B. So that's what we're aiming for. We were thinking of what our past performance was, and we don't have that released to us yet. But if I use my 7th grade class as an example, that would mean that 3 of my 7th grade classes had just nosed over that amount, and one of mine was significantly lower. So it gives me something to work on this year. We're also working for strategies with pre-teaching vocabulary and having word walls. If you're not familiar with word walls, those are there for staff as well as students so that we use certain vocabulary words over and over again, and that by the end of the year, the students own them and we can hear them starting to use them themselves. And then finally, I think I would like to draw your attention to the fact that we'll be meeting about every month and a half specifically to go over data and see what it tells us to do, how to change.
I'm going to be talking about our behavior SIP goal. So at Oakland Bay Junior High School, our goal is that by June 2023, in-school and out-of-school exclusions will be less than half of the previous year. In 21-22 school year, there was 255 student exclusions. In 22-23, there will be less than 125 exclusions. We have several different strategies we're going to be using to meet this goal, including making sure that all classroom teachers are clearly articulating our school-wide expectations regarding behavior each class period. This was done in advisory as well as our regular classes. And then we are planning on regularly reviewing school expectations at the end of various breaks and things like that. We are also using MTSS data to drill down on specifics. For example, behavior in hallways is something that we've been emphasizing to make sure that passing period is successful for all students. We are also increasing our SEL instruction for all students. We're using advisory to do that and a program called Second Step. We have scheduled Mondays and Wednesdays as SEL lessons, and we move them around as needed, focusing on bullying, for example, recently. And then Fridays, we are using an advisory to celebrate student success and increase student desire to be at school. We are developing a shared meeting with students around behavior and seeking out a connection and shared understanding about our behavior expectations so everyone's on the same page. We're also using a specific strategy called 5-to-1 ratio of positive to negative feedback for all students, and we're receiving training in staff meetings about this program. We have several systems and structures we're also using at our school to support this, including sharing with students the goal and data every 6 weeks so we can celebrate our successes and drill down on where we need to improve. Administration and teachers are working collaboratively with families to support student growth in self-management of behaviors. Staff is also participating in professional development around classroom management, including de-escalation strategies and other important behavior issues. The MTSS team, Paratech behavior staff, and administration are working together to identify problem behaviors and provide support for students and staff as well. Thank you.
And among the strategies that we're using to improve literacy and get our ELA SBA scores up, as included in that is the Marzano 6-step process for teaching academic vocabulary across the content areas. So not just in ELA class, but in math, science, social studies. All of the content areas employ various key vocabulary terms, and this 6-step process is really critical to helping students be able to access that vocabulary and then access the related instruction. So the 6-step process includes providing a description. That's generally the first step in Marzano's process. Provide a description, explanation, or example of the new term. And for our ESL students, this might include a non-linguistic representation of the term. Then we ask students to restate the description, explanation, or example in their own words. We might have them pick out the critical attributes of the word and allow students whose primary knowledge base is still in their native language to then write that description in that native language to help them better access what that word means in a language that they already understand. And ask students to construct a picture, symbol, or graphic representation of the word, and our teachers have already been doing that by adding those pictures and images to their word walls. As you go into those classrooms and see those words, you'll see those graphic representations up on those word walls as well. Fourth step in the process is to engage students periodically in activities that help them add to their knowledge of the terms in their notebooks. So the notebooks that they're taking notes in regularly, they go back and access those terms and re-engage with them periodically, so it's not just a one and done, but that they're constantly reusing that part of their brain and re-engaging that word. Periodically asking students to discuss the terms with one another, and again, allowing native language when appropriate. And finally, involving students periodically in games that allow them to play with those terms. So that, for example, they might find synonyms, antonyms, match words to pictures and graphics, create analogies, or write stories that they might utilize that content-specific vocabulary, but in creative ways that engage them with those terms. So these are the types of strategies that we would be employing, not just in ELA, but again in science, math, social studies, any content area specific.
All right, talking a little bit more about what we are doing to make sure that all students have access to SEL education. On the screen, you see a weekly email that goes out with advisory lesson plans. And you'll notice on Monday and Wednesday, we have assigned a scope and sequence about bullying, harassment, intimidation, and bullying. And then in the notes above, we're talking about rewarding classes and students for their good behavior. This is a tier 1 reward activity that we're prepping for. We're doing a loteria game. If you're not familiar with that, that's like Mexican-American bingo. We chose to do this to honor the end of Hispanic Heritage Month. So students that were on time to class and didn't have major infractions are invited to celebrate during advisory time and play a little game and get some rewards. Some other things that go on in the week to support our SIP goal in literacy. We have a student-originated advisory competition about literacy, where every advisory competes to read the most pages. And so we have several different prizes that we're rewarding every trimester. And we're really proud of that program since it was student leadership class that came up with this idea, and we've been able to sustain it. And on Fridays, we reflect on kindness over the week. We celebrate our successes and make plans to address where we did not quite meet our best self in each student. Very important at the middle school level to be developing those skills.
So the last slide is the 5-to-1 strategy that we're using, and it helps with behavior management, and it also helps with creating a positive culture in the classrooms and the buildings, and it provides the teachers with more instructional time. So 5-to-1 is for every one correction the teacher gives. So if the teacher says, Jose, get out your notebook, that would be a correction because the child hasn't done it yet. They are then to say 5 positives back, and it can be to Jose or it can be to the whole class or a small group of kids. But then you're saying, oh, thank you for having your pencil out. Thank you for paying attention. I'm glad to see that you're doing, X, Y, Z, So you say positive things 5 to every one correction that you make. So you're reinforcing with the kids what you want to see them doing, and then you're making, minor corrections when the kids aren't meeting those expectations. So it really helps in 2 ways with creating a positive environment, and it also allows the teachers to have more time to teach and the kids to be more engaged because it creates a safe learning environment where it's really predictable. And so the kids can kind of relax and then engage in the new content or whatever they're learning. So that's a big one for us. We've been working on that. That is it. Did you have any questions for us?
And if we can get Carla back up on the screen as well too, because I know she's listening in. All right, there you are. Board members, do you have any questions at this time? And Carla, you're welcome to jump in too, or wave your hand if you do. Okay. Yeah, you're go right ahead, Carla.
I see the people. I'm not sure how to turn that on my screen. But anyway, they'll just know who should answer this. Going back to the first screen of the school improvement plan, it's talked about a publishing standard that students need to know punctuation, capitalization, and a set of words that they should be able to spell correctly. I'm just wondering the source of that. Have they found professional published sets of words, and are they making those available to parents?
Okay, so Carla, with your idea about the specific list of words, we were talking about very simple words. I'm not sure where to look for you. I'm going to look up here. Very simple. Okay, all right,
Yeah.
then we're fine.
I think it's
Okay.
just going to be audio because on her end, she may not be able to see
Okay, that's all
people
right.
at all.
So they're very simple words that are below grade level. Some ideas are anything that has apostrophes in it, like don't and can't and things like that. So it's not so much like a list of 7th grade words or a list of 8th grade words. It's that they do not misspell significantly below grade level words. But it's a good idea to have a list out. I have seen lists before, and unfortunately they are hundreds of words long, and so it makes it a little tough. But I think that the idea of having apostrophes for contractions, and also they didn't specifically say that, it just says apostrophe, oh, there it is, for possessives as well. So that's one big part. And then very simple words like anything on the 4th grade list or lower. So that would be it.
Okay, 4th grade list. English list then.
There are published lists for 4th grade or lower.
Yeah, we've done that before in elementary school, and it just helped to let the parents know what we were expecting. So that's why I asked it.
I think I'll write that down, then the 4th grade list or lower, and then I'll make sure that I'm accurate on this. I'm just going on past knowledge, but that's what it used to be, so, okay, all right.
Thank you. So I have another question about the behavior expectations. It's great that you have a plan, but I didn't understand number 3, strategy. The teacher will develop a shared meaning with students. So can you explain what that means more, what that would look like, a shared meaning with students?
Yeah, we can speak to that. For example, our main 3 values at our school are being respectful, resilient, and responsible. So making very clear through our advisory classes when we co-construct meaning around these things. Something that MTSS has been having active conversations about is a common definition of respect. We have a starting place with the kids that we are trying to move them into a more well-rounded version of respect. Something that's emerging as we are looking at our discipline data is that a lot of students in our community, when they think about respect, they have respect for their close, trusted group, and it's hard for them to extend trust and respect to people outside of that. And so that is kind of where our work is right now, is developing, this is what respect looks like in many different areas in your later career and working with other people. And so being very explicit on both sides about where we're starting and what our expectations are is part of that work. And so a lot of that is done in our conversations in advisory.
Thank you for elaborating on that. That makes sense. It's nice to know what your theme and your philosophy is. So I congratulate you all for being willing to work with a very tough age, 7th and 8th grade. And I know that you're doing the social, emotional piece. So how receptive are students to that? Are they buying into that, or is it a rebellious age that is hard to get them to participate?
I can give you an example in our school. We had some real rough hallway behaviors, some rough housing and horseplay, and it was kind of an unsafe place. So we started a program called Hallway Heroes, and it's related to the 5-to-1 ratio, where we give out our 3R tickets, which is our incentive system in our token economy in our school. And teachers were instructed and set up for success to catch kids being good. And it's a really stressful time during the day, lots of movement, lots of transition, lots of responsibilities for teachers. And it took a second to get it started. But something that teachers started noticing was when we started catching kids being good, we realized that we are kind of meeting our expectation of, we are thinking about in MTSS, kind of the pyramid of at least 85% of our kids are doing what we expect them to do. And it's only a few kids that we need to target and focus and support and reteach expectations to that are causing unsafe behavior. And so it was really good for the staff to, and it relieved a lot of our stress to see how many kids and really like focus on noticing that and celebrating that success with them.
Okay, thank you.
We have
And
another teacher. We have another teacher who has something to share.
Okay.
If you were curious about the 5-to-1 ratio of, kind comments on task comments for every corrective, my toughest class, 8th grade class, they started mimicking the kind tone that I was using, which is really interesting. At first I thought that it maybe was disrespectful, but then I decided, no, this is a really nice tone that they're using as well. So they're practicing using it. I kind of wish they used their own voices instead of my higher voice, but no, they're receptive. It's very interesting.
Thank you. That's all I have for questions, and I thank you, staff, for bringing your presentation forward. It was very good.
All right, thank you, Carla. Are there any questions here from board members?
I really appreciated your questions, Carla. I think you addressed some that I had as well. The only question I'll add is, as you're looking at spaces that need attention, obviously hallways, and you're seeing already an improvement in there. Besides hallways, is there another, space in particular that needs improvement or monitoring or additional support?
Yeah, so most of our undesirable behavior seems to occur in the bathrooms. So no cameras in the bathrooms, and the stalls and the doors, and lots of kids in and out of the bathroom, and they like to take friends with them to the bathroom, so then it ends up with 10, 15 kids in each bathroom, which is a lot of kids. So that's our problem area, and we are working to resolve that. It is getting better than it was a couple weeks ago, but we are still working through that. It's not completely resolved yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you have a plan. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't talk tonight either. Thank you all very much for your presentation. I have a couple of questions, and as you know, many of you know, I've had one daughter come through the school already, and she's now in the 9th grade, and I have one currently at the school, so I do get some feedback there. I guess first thing I want to say is thank you very much for sending out the newsletter. I appreciate, and I think many parents appreciate, just having the contact from the school so that they know who to contact and getting updates on information that's going on. There's a lot that goes on in that school. I've had one daughter go on the Washington, D.C. trip. I have another one that is, and I constantly have parents asking me questions about that. So if that could be included even in the newsletter for who to contact if people still want to go on that trip. Because they know my child's going, there are just some people that missed the meeting, and that I don't know where that information necessarily comes from, but anything that's coming up like that, or sports, those are always questions that parents end up having. I was curious about what some of the things are that you're doing to celebrate kids' success. You're saying that you're pointing those out on Fridays, and I do think that this particular age group has a lot of rules and a lot of corralling in, and so then what are the things that you do to have that positive side?
I can start and others can follow, but we have been handing out the 3R tickets, and then the kids can cash those in for prizes or awards through their classroom. So each classroom teacher has a list of items. So an example.
Positive phone call home.
Oh, positive phone call home. 3R tickets, and you get a positive phone call home. So lots of things like that happen at the classroom level. And it's not really like candy or anything like that, or talkies, that they really want. The talkies, yeah. So, but it's more non-tangible things like the call home and that kind of stuff. So we have that. We're doing Friday shout-outs on the intercom. So we're calling out kids' names to come down and get a little OBJ backpack on Fridays. We're doing a lotteria tomorrow, Wednesday, or Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday and Thursday. Now I'm mixed up on my days. But anyway, we're doing that for kids who have made it to every class on time for the past 5 days. What else are we doing? Ideas? Okay, thank you.
For my room, I have these little traffic cones that have positive statements on them. I have a stack that's enough for everybody in class. Each week I ramp it up a little bit, my expectations for what you would need to do to earn the traffic cone. And the traffic cone is worth 30 seconds, up to maybe a minute and a half early out from class. And so now we're ramped up to, they must have their writing utensil, they must be on time, they must help their partners finish up an entry task, and everybody in their little group has to be done with it. And tomorrow it includes library book. So I'm just thinking of the behaviors that'll help my kids be successful and will help the class run well. And by the end of the year, those traffic cones would be really hard to get, but it wouldn't surprise me if I just ease it in little by little that they'll meet those expectations. Oh, and if the whole class does something that I expect of them, the whole class earns an extra traffic cone. Sometimes they don't even get to go out early and they just love it sitting on the corner of their desk. So things like that, just little positive things, and I'm trying not to use candy this year.
Yeah. Yeah, we're all trying not to use candy so much, not food stuff. So we are starting to open the school store. We're just getting it organized. So they'll use their 3R tickets to purchase items there. So that hopefully will be open next week. And that'll be a big rollout. But I think they're ready, and we're moving forward.
Yeah, no, and
So.
I saw you're having sweatshirt sales
Yeah,
and
the PTSO. Mhm.
yeah, and it's nice to see that the
Yeah.
PTSO got some new leadership, so the people whose kids were in like the 10th grade could finally stop doing that. I know the pandemic has interrupted a few things and caused transitions to be a little more difficult, but it's nice to see that. Are there any other questions, or are we good? All right, thank you all very much for the
And I'll just
presentation.
follow up real quick with, those are some great incentives, some very original and creative ways, and I think the kids will respond well.
All right, we will move on to 5.04, which is the update on Instructional Materials Committee.
All right, good evening. Been up here for a while now. So I wanted to give the board an update on our application process for our Instructional Materials Committee. The focus of this group is to take the recommendation from the Adoption Committee and just make sure that what they are recommending for adoption meets state and federal laws, that it meets the learning standards, and it followed its own criteria as the Adoption Committee. So that went out on October 4th, and unfortunately, this position I did not receive any applications for. It's kind of challenging nowadays to find volunteers. So we went ahead and we reposted for the Instructional Materials Committee, and we've extended it to October 31st. And so far, since we did that reposting and did some more advertising, we've gotten 3 applicants. And so I'm hoping at the next board meeting, I'll be able to bring forth some names for your approval.
Okay, great. Are there any questions from board members? Anybody? Nope. All right. I don't think we have any questions about that. We look forward to hearing who those people are.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is the list of names like set at the next meeting, the next school board meeting, or? Oh, okay. I was just curious.
Yeah. And then, Richard, since you have joined us, instead of moving on to the consent agenda, I'll go back up to your student report.
All right, thank you. Good evening. At Shelton High School, we are currently working on redoing our ASB Constitution. It has changed quite a bit, especially since it hasn't been updated since when we had no freshmen on our campus. So there's a lot to rework there, and we're in the process of doing that. It should be a few month process. There are quite a lot of things that we have to change, just like verbiage, things that are outdated. So yeah, we're currently going through that. Some exciting things that have happened on campus is the Air Force band performed this last weekend, the same people that perform at the White House, and they were there to perform for the community, and that was really cool. And they had a lot of messages for the youth about, like, yeah, see how cool the Air Force is, and it was just a really cool performance. Also, now that we're kind of a little bit more matured into the school year, a lot of the clubs and extracurriculars and sports, they're just getting to the exciting parts of what they do. So sports are like getting to their like final rounds, or I think football, I think they're getting like towards the end of their season, I think, and just districts, and those are coming up for different sports and also different clubs. I know NOMT, Night of Musical Theater, that's getting underway in different clubs, Skills USA and DECA and Robotics, Upward Bound, and just the different clubs on campus are getting to get to those parts where they like get to compete or just do the exciting parts of their club. So be on the lookout for that. And if you need a reason to support Climber Pride, I'm sure if you show up to campus, there will be somebody doing something or competing in some way. So yeah, that's everything that's going on the Shelton campus. I do have a question though. Has the technology, I know that the outdated technology, has that been donated to the surplus store yet?
Brenda, you have not publicly posted that yet, or it's out right now? Maybe we can somehow get a message to Richard when that's actually happening.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
And I'll just add to yours, I know that the last home high climber football game is this Friday night, if anybody wants to go to that, and the last home girls volleyball matches is this Thursday.
Yes, please show up and wear your Climber colors.
I don't know about soccer at this point or other things, but we probably do have several kids that are moving into districts for cross country and tennis and things like that too. So we will get an update the next time on all of that, or keep our ears open. All right, now that we have completed the reports and recognitions, we will go to the consent agenda. And we've got our typical things there, the minutes from the last meeting, the proposed personnel report, some general fund warrants. There's no corrections or additions to that. Is there a motion?
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
And I'll second it.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the consent agenda has passed. Tonight, we do not have anything under discussion and action items, so we are going to go straight into board member comments. And Carla, I'm going to start with you since you're there remote.
Thank you. So I enjoyed hearing about the junior high and all the positive things they're trying to put in place for those students. I think at every level we need that. But I want to have a shout out tonight to teachers, just because I've talked to some teachers and I know there are difficult days in teaching, as I remember. And sometimes it seems like the support is not there, or the children will never meet the goals. And you have to remember, though, the reason you went into teaching, and that is because you're there for the breakthroughs. And when they have a victory and success, and the tender moments those kids and families share with you. And that's why you chose this profession. So to all my teacher friends out there still in the trenches teaching, I hope you can make it through rough days, and remember that this is a very important job. And what you're doing with children will definitely affect their future. So that's my shout out to teachers. And one thing I'd like to add is that retirement does come one day, as I have discovered myself. And it's a wonderful opportunity to look back and reflect upon your career.
Thank you, Carla, and thank you very much for taking the time out of your vacation to join us remotely. We really appreciate it. All right, Sandy, do you have any comments this evening?
I have been trying to get to a JV soccer game. Tried to go last week, but then it was canceled for smoke. So I did get over there tonight in the rain and realized there's a lot of kids I haven't seen in quite a while that are out there playing again. And other than that, it's about the only activity that I was able to get to, but I was glad to be able to do that and just enjoy the enthusiasm of our student reps.
All right, thank you, Sandy. Matt, do you have any comments this evening?
I do. So, as very few people may know, part of our automotive department group club, I hope they all forgive me for totally butchering what they are, but there's a race up at the Ridge Motorsports Park, 24 Hours of Lemons. Our school district sort of had a car that was driven by alumni that they worked on in the automotive department-ish. Don't scowl. And anyways, so they didn't win, but they didn't break down. And they completed 24 hours, and they actually got the organizers award. So that was super cool. They are trying to work out some more of the stuff. One of the things, going back to both the principal appreciation and the school improvement program today, one of the things that I keep hearing is that we're trying to catch everybody doing good, and 5-to-1 ratios and all of this. And I would like to hope and see that isn't just going to the students, and that our administrative staff is catching our principals doing good, and our principals are catching our teachers doing good. Maybe there's some prizes for, best attendance for a week. The school cook puts out a great meal, announce that. Everything is, the safe and welcoming environment goes back to the janitorial staff. All of these things, I hope that we are leading by example and showing kids that it isn't just thanking Johnny for getting his homework done, but thanking the teacher in the room next door for respecting your need for quiet time for a test and those sorts of things. And I hope that that's going on. Lastly, to anybody out there, there's a lot of rain on the road. There have been several teenager-involved accidents in the last couple of days. So if you have teenagers that are learning to drive, or you teach teenagers that are of the age that they might be driving, remind them that they need to slow down. It's been a busy couple of days. So that's all I got.
All right, thank you. Those are good reminders. And yes, thank you for the presentation tonight, and thank you to all of our school principals. It's a big job, and schools have a lot of moving parts to them, as all of us hear quite a bit, but maybe not everyone realizes that. I did have the opportunity to go to the dual language meeting last Thursday, and I do want to thank the superintendent and Kat for doing a great presentation. There were close to 100 people in that gym. I stood in the back and I kept backing up as they kept adding seats for different community members and families to come in. And it was a similar presentation to what we've had here at the school board, but it was nice to be able to get all of that information out to families and have some time for questions. There's always additional questions, as there usually is, but it was a very packed room, so a lot of information sharing that evening, and I was happy to be there at that. Any given night, I've been at volleyball games or the football games. The homecoming game, even though it was a tough loss, was a great game with a lot of school spirit, all over the place. It was neat to see Kapowson come flying in. Not every school district has skydivers coming in to bring the ball to the field. So that was pretty exciting. And it's been fun to see the different Spirit Week stuff that's coming up, whether it's Cedar, or I know my daughter at OBJH has Spirit Week stuff coming up. So I think all of these things that are just fun things for the kids, because as my two teenage daughters like to tell me, it's like they are expected to be grown up or have grown up behaviors, but they're still just kids and want to have fun too. So it is really nice to just have the fun things. So I do really appreciate just hearing about the positives that are going on. And with that, we do not have any need for an executive session or exempt session this evening. If there is a motion for adjournment, we can adjourn the meeting.
I move to adjourn.
I'll second.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn this meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no.
I made the motion.
Yeah. Hearing none, we are adjourned. And if school board members that are present could stay for silence.